Yeah, we got the Blackstone Grill.
I finally got one for Father's Day.
They're clutch.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, it's pretty big time. You guys will know one day the pleasures of the Blackstone Grill.
The breakfast spread, you do it all in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is wonderful. All right, you good over there?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to start with players first here.
Did that.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello again and welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. I'm Adam Hildebrandt, the voice of the Tigers, joined by Tiger football head coach Josh Blankenship. In between weeks here, coming off of the Union game last week, and you got Owasso at home this week. Going back to Friday, it seemed like overall it was a better team performance than in week one. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way you wanted to, but we felt from the booth like we saw a lot of improvements over the course of week one to week two. Did you feel the same when you went back and looked at film?
I did, and that's pretty cool that you had that observation. It probably helps being next to Spav. He's the ultimate optimist grandpa right now. So it's it is our defense vastly improved, and their preparation in that week leading up to Union was awesome to watch. I mean, you heard these guys, they'll talk about a chip on their shoulder, and they've had that. And my fear on the offensive side of the ball was that we had the success that we had against Bentonville wasn't real. And that's not to disrespect Bentonville, but they just weren't the caliber of defense that we're going to see week in and week out. And we got a dose of reality against Union, a really, really good defense. So we still saw the things that are potentially there that we've got to connect on and execute on. And I got to have a better plan. I'm trying to balance. We've got so many young guys on offense that are playing, and that was a second game for a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And then the big moment of a big rivalry game with tons of fans and the noise. And I probably did a poor job of trying to ease those guys into the game, and then kind of backfires. And now all of a sudden you're in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. And that's just as much pressure as, putting it on them on first down.
Sure.
So I've got to do a better job of getting those guys a chance to play well, but I have seen what I need to see, and I love our club. I still do.
We kind of building off of that, we also noted it seemed like, Union kind of came out and hit you guys in the mouth, got 20, but it seemed like there was improvement quarter to quarter, drive to drive in that game as well.
It was oddly similar to last year's, at least the defensive side of the ball, last year's Jinx game, and that was much later in the season. So here we are in week 2, and I'm already seeing the improvement that I want to see. I wish we could see it with a win.
Sure.
But, early season gauntlet that we're going through, that may not happen. And so I'm seeing what I saw at a sooner rate or faster rate and sooner in the season than I saw last year. So I'm very encouraged and excited to keep getting better.
You mentioned the kind of jump of opponent defensively from week 1 to week 2, because Union had size and talent, both up front and in the linebacker positions. How did you feel like the offense, specifically the offensive line, dealt with that front seven? Because that's a pretty special group, it seemed like.
I think they handled it very well as far as poise. I think they got exposed on where they've got to improve technique wise. If you're half the size of that nose guard that's coming after you, we number one as coaches got to put you in a position to be successful and get the help that you need. But I think we got a good dose of where we have to improve. And again, alluding back to the Bentonville game, wasn't a really good measuring stick for those guys to know where they were and where they need to be, because it was one of those you could call about anything you wanted, and it was finding success.
Absolutely, and for those of you who did not tune into the game or need a refresher, that nose guard for Union was 6'4", 310. So he was a big dude to try to move around. Special teams ended up in some tough spots. Had to punt out of your end zone a couple of times. Obviously, are kicking to some really talented guys in the return game for Union. How did you feel like in those situational moments, whether that be trying to get that high onside executed or punting from deep in your own half? How did they deal with those situations and kind of execute in there?
Positive and negative, but only thing you can learn from is when to do or when not to do certain things that we made decisions on. I'm trying not to reveal too much about what we're trying to do scheme wise, but there's a right time and a wrong time to make the choices that we made on some of those situations, and we've just got to improve. So There's no personnel issues on special teams. We were much cleaner in our in and out off the field substitution, which is critical to me. So I saw a lot of improvement, but that's still, execution wise and decision making. You're only going to learn those in those big moments.
You mentioned that in and out substitution being important, and it's kind of one of those things that I think is undervalued until you get to
until you get exposed
fourth quarter situation where it costs you 5 yards and then you're out of field goal range or something. I mean, those are little things that really can have a big impact, especially as you get later in the season.
There's a lot of those things that I'm pretty excited about. Early season games, you see a lot of issues in any level, NFL, college, high school. You saw, I think it was LSU, the way they lost their game. It always comes down those first games to special teams, turnovers, and stupid penalties. And for the most part, we have eliminated stupid penalties. We had our share, but it hasn't been tremendous. We've done a pretty good job of not turning the ball over. I don't think we've put the ball on the ground yet, knock on wood. The interception that we had was a great play by that DB. And we're doing a good job of getting turnovers. So special teams, the operation side of things, the mechanics that I'm probably the only one that notices and gets maniacal about, but as critical as those are, I'm impressed with that. We've got to improve our decision-making.
You mentioned limiting the turnovers so far, and you've had 2 quarterbacks put the ball in the air and only 1 interception. Haven't given it away yet on the ground. Let's talk about Owen Jones specifically. He was 12 of 23 on Friday. How did he kind of grade out in the passing game as you went back through the film and kind of the decision-making process that he was going through?
Very high. He's making a lot of really good decisions. He's still young. This was his second game. So the sky's the limit for that kid. He is uber talented. I love how much he is obsessed with the cerebral part of the game, the chess match of it. And he soaks up coaching. He loves watching film and learning. And if you've got that with the skill set that he has, he's going to be special.
And he was in some spots,
tough,
second and long, third and long.
And that's my fault.
And with, how can you get a read of how he's handling that mentally, kind of going through those plays and knowing what he has to do, knowing that a defense is going to be coming after him in those moments?
He's a coach's kid first, so he's already got that toughness that's been built into him through parenting, through what he's, grown up as a wrestler and all the things and the situations that he's been in. He's very poised. Where I really judge it is by the decisions that he makes in those moments, and he's grading out well in those. He's still got some things he can improve on, obviously, but I'm very pleased with his progression.
The running game had a tough time getting going the other day, but what did you see from those backs? Because you still got kind of that 3-headed monster back there.
Yep, I think I saw, we kept trying to get KD a little bit more touches, and then we had a couple of false starts on 2 of them that I think he would have creased him on. I think Cabry Harris is in his second game. I think he was a little hesitant at certain moments. There were some creases that he hit that probably could have gone for a big chunk if he was a little bit more assertive, a little bit more confident. That, again, it only comes with game time. And then I thought Nate Jones was Nate Jones, physical, confident. He's been in those wars. He's got his 500 fights. So he did what we expect Nate to do. Again, Nate gets undervalued in his pass protection. I mean, what he brings in that is tremendous.
That's Coach Josh Blankenship talking a little bit about this Broken Arrow Tiger football team and offense. We'll flip the script to the defense when we return in just a moment. This is Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Right now, get $200 from TTCU Federal Credit Union when you open a new checking account with direct deposit. What would you buy with $200?
Cars, race cars, my own apartment, 100 coloring books, and a puppy.
Or maybe some groceries and a tank of gas. $200 for whatever works for you from TTCU, because life is better in balance.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. Adam Hildebrandt, again, joined by head coach Josh Blankenship. Coach, we talked some offense. Let's flip the side of the football here. Union, obviously a lot of weapons offensively. How did they really stress your defense in that game on Friday, and how did you see that defense improve over the course of that game?
Our guys, we talked about the week before, being misaligned or having bad eyes or missing tackles, and all of that improved vastly. I mean, it was awesome to watch, and they earned it. I mean, the way they practiced, the chip on their shoulder, it was awesome watching them prepare for that performance, and it's probably one of the better offenses, if not the best offense that we will see. I mean, they have weapons everywhere. I think what they're doing with Tempest, who was their quarterback going into the season last year, and then with the solid quarterback that moved in, using him at receiver, and then I mean he's a lightning bug out there. It's impressive, and then being able to quickly transition and him get snaps at quarterback, similar to what we do with Cooper Bates, really dangerous, and it's hard to stop the run, knowing the weapons they have on the outside and the quarterback they have pulling the trigger. So you saw them, their offense come out determined to throw, like they knew that that's what they were going to have to do, and I thought we held up really well, especially considering the bad spots we kept putting them in, whether it be an offense going forward in a situation on fourth down and not getting it, whether it be a turnover. We had I think it was the punt that we should have got off and looked like it was a fake, and they tackled us in our own territory. Our defense turns around and gets a turnover right after that. Those are the things I'm looking for. Those sudden change moments are the hardest and the most stressful on a defense, more stressful than the talents that we're talking about that Union had. And we went out there and bowed up and got that turnover in response. That is huge. And I love how we're flying around.
There were a few occasions that they came up big. In fact, Union went for it on fourth down four times. It was 0 for 4.
They did to open the first drive, I believe.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So that's a very specific situation. Usually, if an opponent's going for it on fourth down, it's fourth and pretty short, because they weren't in any like desperation late game type situation. Right. So, what allows a defense to have that kind of success and really just kind of stand up with your back against the wall and get a stop?
It's mentality. I mean, if you view it as oh crap, they're going for it on fourth down, you're not going to find success. If you just treat it as third down again, then you can bow up and do your job, and that's what our guys did.
You also mentioned kind of briefly making sure you're getting aligned. It seemed like, well, it didn't seem like, there absolutely were fewer busted coverages, fewer miscommunications on the back end. And it sounds like a lot of that was just down to preparation and getting all those guys back on the same page in the film room, that sort of thing.
It is. And we mentioned this last week, but, an offense can struggle, and then put enough good things together, and the perception is that they were good on offense. Mm-hmm. Defense, if you struggle, you get exposed, especially against really good offenses. And so that's what I think you saw. I think you saw a head down, grind mentality, chip on their shoulder preparation that they still have. It's pretty awesome to watch these guys practice. And then you got to see some results of it. And more importantly, those guys that put in the work got to see the results of it. So that just obviously reinforces the work and the preparation, which they've continued to do.
So some clear improvement from the defense from week 1 to week 2. What's the next step now? What do they need to get better at next?
I don't think there's we've got to improve on this or this. I think it's just constant improvement. And, it's got to be all 11 on the field doing their jobs at 100 miles an hour, just relentlessly. And you heard the guys talk about, flying to the football. And, we've got on Sundays, we show what we call team plays, some clips that we want to show from the film that maybe don't get noticed in the game from the sideline or from the stands, but stuff we want to highlight and celebrate. And there was one where they broke a run, and there was probably a missed tackle right around the box area, and the guy got into the secondary, I believe it was a running back. And by the time we tackled the guy, there were 10 of our 11 guys, 10 of our 11 black shirts around that one defender, something like 20 yards down the field. So celebrating those things and reinforcing those things that we've got to have and got to see is important.
That's a talk a little bit about the defense for Broken Arrow. Another challenge coming up against Owasso this week. We'll talk about them here in just a little bit. More to come. This is Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
Recently, you've had to put your life on hold, and we're with you in this. At Ascension St. John, we're now open for appointments, and we are fully prepared for your safety in our care. As we open our doors again, our doctors, nurses, and care teams will continue to wear personal protective equipment. We've taken even more steps to clean and stringently disinfect all areas. We will maintain distancing in our waiting rooms, and will continue to limit visitors. And we will still screen all staff to protect their health and yours. Our emergency rooms are here 24/7. Please do not delay care. We're still delivering babies and performing surgeries. And we're open for your appointments, from specialists and surgical care to routine care and health screenings. Ask us about virtual visits. Ascension St. John continues to care for you, as we have been for almost a century. Thank you for trusting us.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. We got a couple of players joining us now, Dietrich Moore and Jaylon Franklin, here to spend a few minutes with us. Dietrich, let's start with you. You got banged up late in the season last year, had to miss the last few games. What was that experience like, not being able to play those last few games last year, and then coming back and working through that injury?
It was a tough deal. The whole team was very helping out. They stayed, what's it called? They stayed positive. They helped me get through it, and I don't know really. I lost myself.
Was there anything that you learned about yourself kind of from that experience and on the comeback trail from that?
Yeah. There's different ways to deal with adversity, and it was pretty tough, but family and the team, which is also family, everybody helped me out, and they were always around. What
was it like getting back out in an actual game against Bentonville a couple weeks ago?
It was tough. I think I started off pretty slow, but as it went on and as it's still going, I'm getting back into it, getting better.
Feel good all in all, though?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What, as a defense as a whole, what are you guys working on right now? What do you need to improve on?
We're working on getting to the ball faster, flying around. Everybody's trying to have a chip on their shoulder this week and just keep going on. So.
What about life away from football? What does Dietrich Moore do when he's not between the lines?
I'm a really relaxed person. I like to watch movies, make music.
Oh yeah,
people know
you play
that.
instruments?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I play piano.
No
I
kidding.
don't really do anything too much with the piano, but I learned quite a while ago.
You like throw down some beats and do some different rhythms and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, that's more advanced than I've got in my IT music base. So that's impressive.
This is why we do these podcasts, so I can actually know what these guys.
There
do
you go.
outside
Yeah,
football.
we get maybe some new locker room music coming our way, courtesy of Dietrich Moore. All right, let's go over here to Memphis. Jaylon Franklin. First of all, for those who don't know, walk us through why they call you Memphis.
I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
It's a pretty simple story when all is said and done.
Well, he's graduated from, it used to be Little Memphis.
I was Little Memphis.
But
what made the transition? At what point did you go from Little to just Memphis?
Big brother graduated.
Yeah, big brother. I had to step up, man.
That'll help. I mean, you got it on a chain. Like it's a full on thing.
Yes, sir.
All right, I love it. Now let's talk a little bit about you. We just kind of did this with Dietrich, so let's transition over to you. What do you do away from football?
I'm either working out, or sleep.
It is a man of just simple pleasures there.
Yes,
What's your dream job? Like, you're looking,
job?
like 15, 20 years down the road, what's your dream job?
Other than being in the NFL? Because
I mean, that's a good dream.
That's top list.
That's one that I certainly,
right there.
if you that, or after. What about after you play in the NFL? What would you want to do?
Oh no, that's my dream right there, to be in the NFL. What would I do?
And after you make all that money, run some businesses.
Fact, I want to own a few businesses.
There you go.
I do want to own a few businesses.
All right, entrepreneur. You take that NFL money, seed money, you go start some businesses right there.
Absolutely.
Perfect. There you go. So, let's talk a little bit of football with you. What do you think is the biggest strength of your game?
The way I talk, I know I'm very vocal when I'm on the field, and like whenever my energy down, I know the team's energy is gonna, you feel me, bump down the notch. So whenever I get to speaking up, whether it's making calls or just talking stuff to the other team, I know that's gonna, you feel me, impact the game a whole lot.
So not only the mental aspect of the game with your teammates and getting them involved, but the mental aspect of you trying to, mentally have a better game than your opponent.
Facts.
All right. So I won't ask you to throw out any, like what your favorite catchphrases are or anything like that, but do you kind of relish the opportunity to go up against guys who are talented on the other side of the ball and go one-on-one with them?
I love it. I love to try to take someone's offers. I love it. That's, you feel me, it's a better opportunity to get me better and, you feel me, put me out there. I love it.
What is kind of your mindset? Because there are times that you might be in press coverage or one-on-one coverage. Obviously, you want to have success. When you do get beat, every so often, what is your mindset after that? How do you kind of move past that?
Okay, good play, next rep. That's it.
Simple enough.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's Memphis and Dietrich Moore. Guys, thanks for coming and spending some time with us today. Good luck on Friday against Owasso.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more in just a moment. This is Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.
For families who like to build their wealth while staying liquid, we have flexible rate CDs to keep your funds working hard, even when you're not. First National Bank of Broken Arrow. The right balance.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib. I'm Adam Hildebrandt alongside Josh Blankenship. We got a big one this week, the Patriot Bowl, driven by the Jim Glover Auto family as Owasso comes here to Broken Arrow. This is a fun, cool event every fall that gets played between these two schools to benefit also Folds of Honor, which is heavily involved in this, and a cool opportunity. Do you talk at all over the course of the week with these guys that are going to play in this game about what goes on with this event and why it takes place?
We mention it. We try not to focus on, all the other stuff that is a big deal to everybody that's attending the game, watching the game, because we want to keep them focused on their jobs. But we certainly, especially when it comes to what this game represents, being the Patriot Bowl, Folds of Honor, we definitely talk about those things.
You've got obviously a challenge that you're well aware of. Your dad's coaching on the other side here. What stands out to you about this Owasso team?
Their talent, as always. They're a championship caliber program. So the struggles that they've had with injury, they're going to overcome those things. I don't think they got enough credit for the battle, the grinder that they were in a 14-7 game with Jinx. I mean, that's a playoff type of game. Defensive struggle, finding a way to get points on the board. That tells me that they're starting to figure some things out. In spite of their adversity that they've had with losing some key players.
Yeah, and one of those guys who we've seen have a major impact on games for the last few years now is Cole Adams. He's a major Division I, prospect. Obviously, there is other talent on the roster, so it's not all one guy. But how does losing a guy of that caliber impact a team, any team, not necessarily just Owasso?
Yeah, he impacted so much for them. I mean, you take special teams alone. In our playoff game last year, he returned 3 kicks for touchdowns. 1 got called back. He's dynamic, and he's one of those few guys that when you have recruiters come in to talk about who you have to be recruited, you can't help but talk about that kid over at Owasso and tell them what you think about that kid. And I always described him as one of the few I've ever seen that seems like they're playing the game in slow motion. Like everybody else is moving at a slower pace, and they see it different. They just operate differently. So I hate it for that kid, man. And he's a phenomenal kid and phenomenal player, but his future is very, very bright as well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be looking forward to a good game between Owasso and Broken Arrow this Friday night against the Patriot Bowl, driven by the Jim Glover Auto family. We will have that for you on Arrow Vision with Spav and I on the call. Coach Blankenship, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Inside Tiger Football, brought to you by Rib Crib.